Hello, everyone. Welcome to Esports, a perfect space to practice digital citizenship and SEL. I am Sue Thoughts, and I am joined today by Tali Horowitz and Jessica Boucher. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Hi, everyone. I am Jessica Boucher. I'm a digital learning services project specialist with San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools, and I am the administrator that oversees esports at the county level for our 33 school districts.
Excellent. Tali.
Hi, I'm Tali. I am based in New York and I support East Coast schools and districts and am Sue's colleague, and I'm delighted to be joining Sue and Jessica today.
Yeah, and I'm Sue Thoughts, and I'm the director of Outreach here in Southern California. And I work with a lot of the schools and the districts. And all three of us are here today because we all care very deeply about esports, and especially around some of the social and emotional and the digital citizenship aspects and opportunities that come along with esports. And that's what we'd like to share with you today. We'll be talking for about 30 minutes during this recording and hoping to give you lots of resources and ideas for implementation, and just having a conversation about the ways that we see esports really bringing in a lot of these concepts to help support our students in more ways than we can in the classroom through esports, using social emotional learning ideas and digital citizenship skills that we'll share with you. So this is my quick disclaimer that I share with folks. I am not necessarily a gamer. I'm not the biggest video game player. I am like a board game player. Oh no! Don't worry about it, Jessica. But this is I'm very passionate about this space, and as are all of us. I think I spend a lot of my time. I'm a very good spokesperson, I think, for esports because I got no skin in the game. I am not here because I love gaming. I am here because I love kids. And so when it comes to different skeptics who say like, esports, all these kids learn is these terrible things. I'm pretty good at talking up esports in the ways that kids are already doing a lot of gaming. How can we create good spaces for them in schools and in school settings? How can we help them feel a sense of belonging? How can we help them have better friendships and relationships? We can use this space for things like mentoring, for digital citizenship, and creating that healthy balance and encouraging balance, and also be a very inclusive place. So these are all the reasons that I talk about. I've written a quick newsletter about it. So that's the kind of thing that I talk about with skeptics. And some of the evidence I use is that students are already using media and technology in ways that, is just abundant. And so, in some of this research that we've done at Common Sense, media use is just exploding. I'm sure that's nothing new to many of you who know kids, but especially when it comes to the use of video games, it's very heavily used, whether they're in a mentored space or not. We have a lot of students, including here where we say the percentage of 8 to 18-year-olds who enjoy video games is just going up every year. And we have students who are, when they're in these spaces, they are encountering things like hate speech or racist, language, body shaming, all kinds of content in there. And that is the kind of thing that I think I'm very interested in. I think all of us are interested in, is how do we counter that culture? How do we create spaces, mentored spaces within our schools that help fight back on some of this culture that is negative, that is negatively impacting our kids? So that's the kind of thing that we're talking about today. When it comes
to jump in and say, yeah. I love that you said, look, I'm not a digital gamer. You did show some, tabletop games, some board games, things like that. But it really is a connection that you don't have to be the person holding the controller to care about esports or to care about the issues that students are facing when they are experiencing gaming online. And being aware of some of those things, like you said, the body shaming, the bullying, some of the banter, and the language that they might be exposed to. So even if we are not a gamer ourselves, being aware and being conscious of those things and how to help students is very important. So thank you for putting that disclaimer and discussing that.
Of course, I think that's a lot of the coaches that I meet, right? I mean, a lot of the coaches who I meet just are passionate about their kids' interests. And, plenty of coaches and plenty of the folks that are involved are, very, very knowledgeable about all of this great stuff. But that doesn't mean that those of us who care deeply about our kids can't necessarily be part of this and be supporters right here. So I certainly would be right there with you. So when it comes to all of us, whether you're super knowledgeable about esports or, or are just interested in being there to support your kids, what kind of things do you want to avoid seeing in some of your school's gaming spaces? I always ask folks this. And then what do you want to see? What do you not want to see? And what are you looking for in those spaces? What's your desire? So I'm going to ask you guys, what do you think, Tali and Jessica? Tali, you want to start?
Sure. I mean, I think it's a lot of the negativity in terms of the avoiding, whether it's the trash talking, the put downs, the lack of support.
Inappropriate jokes.
Yeah. Inappropriate jokes. Totally.
Yeah. Kids giving each other a hard time. Yeah. And of course, all that stuff that we mentioned before, the body shaming and the racism and like all that stuff. Yeah. That kind of language. Yeah. Jessica, what do you want to see? What do you expect to see in these spaces?
I would love to see more inclusivity, acceptance of female gamers, making a space where people feel like they are welcomed. Even if they're not a great gamer, just a place to find your people, hang out, learn about it, welcoming beginners, the noobs, the people that are just, trying to find out, well, what is all this about? So just inclusive and welcoming to kind of sum it up.
Yeah. And encouragement and positivity and, good sportsmanship. I mean, whether you're playing, real, I don't know what you call them, real life sports or esports, right? Like we want our students, like that competition is wonderful. It helps us all be better. But I think, we want to see students doing it in a way that's encouraging of each other and their, and their rivals and their teammates and everybody. We're all there to learn and we're all there to take care of each other. Yeah, absolutely. So the big question that we have is, how do you create a gaming space where students feel safe and supported and positive? And we do all these things, these encouraging, inclusive, ideas. Like, what are we going to do? And like, is there something that folks already do, right? What have you already seen that helps people feel this way? What's already in practice, or what have we seen already?
And I love, Sue, that you're giving examples of an interactive board, because while we're asking this to those of you watching today, this is something you could replicate with your students as well. You could ask them, what are things they want to avoid? What do they want to see? And ask them for their ideas about how do you create that space.
Yeah, I often use Post-it notes, straight up Post-it notes, or you could use a Jamboard, or you could use any kind of tool, digital tool or paper tool. Yeah. Yeah. So is there anything that you guys have already seen that you find encouraging, that you've seen out on the, I don't know, already in the esports world? Like go ahead.
Well, I had an example. This is a friend who works as a coach for, live sports, but he was talking about in the esports space as well, of just talking to kids where he's most interested. He's a big basketball follower in the NBA, of finding those players who really pump up or prop up the other players. So the people we might not hear about the same way. And he talks to them about thinking about how they're supporting one another.
Yeah. Highlighting those examples. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. I've met many of those kids at esports tournaments, right? Like those champions, those like kids who are just so enthusiastic. Like they're not necessarily the ones who are winning all the trophies, and they're not the ones who are the champions, but they are definitely the heart of their team. Like, those kids, right? And how do you highlight them and make sure their practices are recognized? Yeah.
I wanted to add something as well. Our county does pop-up tournaments. So we'll go to a school site, and either at lunchtime or after school, we'll just kind of bring some gaming opportunities to the students and let them get a feel of what esports would be like, and see if the school site would like to start a club or an elective. And we've had such great ways that students have shown good sportsmanship. We've had kids shaking hands, high-fiving, even the kids who are the ones that didn't win the match, they're like, wow, good game. Just the thrill of it, to where you're not really seeing them be like, oh, you cheated or this or that. It's more of a encouraging space. And so I think if we can cultivate that and even make that next level where kids are already kind of innately doing that, they're just excited about the opportunity to game together and they're happy for somebody else who wins, and just making sure that we strengthen that and keep that and encourage that so they continue to be great sports as they move up in their gaming.
And we know that this is not all like rainbows and unicorns. We know that kids lose and you get frustrated with yourself, and there's so much emotion in here. And I think, that's a big part of how, mentors are in this space, is just really trying to help our kids develop some sort of discipline and control and regulation when it comes to their own emotions, and how to make sure that that's a huge part of what we do. So that's something that we're going to be talking about today.
Love that as well. Sorry, I just want to say, affirming their emotions and knowing, like, you really do feel frustrated, and letting them know that it's okay to feel disappointed and it's okay to feel frustrated. Some of the students who have done esports haven't done traditional sports, so this might be one of their first experiences with being in a big competition and dealing with a loss. So this is a really great time for them to say, you know what, it's okay to have that emotion, and here's how, you might be able to have a healthy way of feeling that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so how do we help them through that? And so that's this next section here about like gamers and SEL skills, and how do we help our students develop social emotional learning skills. And so if you're not familiar with social emotional learning, it is this, this is the CASEL framework. So CASEL is kind of the authority on social and emotional learning. They have developed these 5 different competencies related to self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness. And so when it comes to the ways in which our students relate to all of these skills here, a lot of this happens not just in the real life where we're talking person to person, but much of it happens in the digital space. And so here are some examples of ways in which our students, through their phones, through their gaming systems, through their online platforms, how are they understanding, how to manage their own emotions, right? As we just talked about, when when something unexpected happens, or, something negative happens, how do they manage those emotions and not let those emotions, become a negative thing, and evaluate the positive and negative, impacts of being online. Our kids spend so much time online. How do they know when to take a break, right? And make a good decision and say, okay, this is getting too much. I need to step away from here, or de-escalate the drama, right? How do they know how to see what's going on relationship wise, in these spaces, and how do they know how to de-escalate it instead of contribute to the escalation of some of this drama? So, these are just some examples of skills that we want kids to develop. And I have here, this is a piece that we're going to be putting into the Wakelet, but this is a whole set of 15-minute, 10-15-minute lessons that, if your students that you see through your esports program are upper elementary, middle, or high school, we have lessons here. Each of these is a hyperlink to a lesson that that talks about, some of these skills here, and you can use with your own students. So one example that we'll pull out here is this idea of self-management. And so when we talk about self-management in a high school setting, there is a lesson here about, understanding that when you are an active user of media and technology, and when you're just passively consuming, and how do you use technology to, to better your emotional or your physical health, and when is it like, oh, I got to put this away, right? And, trying to figure out what that balance is. So that's what this 15-minute quick lesson is. And so, I don't know, Tali, if there's a
I was just going to say about that. I mean, these are obviously essential skills for taking care of yourself as an esports gamer, but these are also just essential life skills. Like figuring out that media balance is huge, and when you need a break. And I was just going to say, Sue, one of the other areas that it really helps you identify is other people's perspectives, which again is really important in our face-to-face world. Digitally, it's So important. And it's even harder, especially when you can't see another player's face the same way, but you have to be able to imagine how they're feeling and how they might be reacting to you.
Yeah, yeah. And in this particular video here, we're talking about, specifically about your own, experience with media and technology, and how do you discern whether your screen time impacts your sleep, right? Are you spending so much time on your screen, on your phone, gaming, that you are causing yourself to be unhealthy in some way? And so I'm asking in this way, this comes from KQED, where we're talking about what is active or passive screen time. And at the end, you can ask your kids, there's a 4-minute video. At the end, you can ask your kids, whether or not the gaming is active or passive. Like, what do they think? All right. And so I'm not going to tell you the answer. You have to come and find out for yourself. When it comes to, digital citizenship and this whole idea that our students are participants in, of course, then in their lives and in digital spaces, we give you different thinking routines that will help your students think through different dilemmas and try to figure out with their friends about, how to take stock of their own digital habits. So this is an example of a digital habits checkup. Tali, I don't know if you've done this one before.
This is probably one of my favorites, because it's really inviting students to reflect on their own habits. It's not us as adults coming in telling them what they should and shouldn't do, or what they should and shouldn't think. It's really like, hey, you take that time. What feels positive or negative? And for the negative piece, what do you want to do to change it? Like, you've got us as a supportive team here to help you think about some strategies for addressing it. It's really powerful when students take it seriously and do it together.
Yeah. And who doesn't like a challenge? I don't know. Kids, we ask them to take a challenge for a week and see how they might change something and try to do a habit differently. So if I spend way too much time on TikTok, how am I going to, try to curb my TikTok habit, and what am I going to replace it with? I think is, what's your strategy for trying to figure out how to do this? So, I don't know if you could see this, Jessica, fitting into, a challenge for your club.
Absolutely. I love that we're giving students agency as well. We're teaching them how to take that responsibility. It falls right into the Castle framework. I'm so happy that you were showing us that, because esports falls into all of those different topics and areas. And so here, just teaching the students, because they're not always going to have someone there saying, time to turn off the video games, or it's been too long. They have to be able to figure out, reading their own cues, looking at their environment, assessing their relationships, things like that we've talked about previously, and giving them that autonomy to make the choices and turn them into responsible individuals. So I absolutely love this. And I think this would be great for a coach to bring to their students, their players' attention, and have them all kind of maybe do a journal or have some type of way to reflect on what their habits are and track their habits, and maybe compare and see each team member how they're doing, or maybe have an accountability partner, something to that effect. So yeah, the possibilities are endless.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so
there could be low-level entry points too, where again, if we're esports players and we need to protect our bodies, there might be some players who don't like wearing their glasses, but that's something where they're like, I'm supposed to be wearing my glasses. I'm going to try to do that more. So again, doesn't have to be a heavy lift to start.
Yeah. Yeah. Or, don't sit around and slouch like this when, I don't know. Like, what are some habits that we can help ourselves develop so that we have, the ability to, to get up and stretch every, set a timer to be able to get up and move and get blood flowing again, and, get your brain some more oxygen so you can play better. Right. I mean, all these things, like, how do we help our kids develop these better habits?
I love how tangible those are as well. Just being mindful of your posture. Yeah. That is absolutely something that they can do.
Simple, just simple. So, a lot of, quick activities that we have related to media balance and well-being are easy to find and follow. And then we also have a lot about relationships and communication, which is a lot of the ways in which we work with our gaming teams and the ways in which we work with each other. Another area that I thought was kind of applicable here was, our students encounter others in a lot of these gaming spaces, and, people that they don't know, and they need to be, this is an 8th grade lesson about responding to hate speech. And in this lesson, it includes a scenario. We have lots of scenarios within the common sense content, but this one here is about a meme, like, that somebody had posted on Discord, and, and about the way that a student might respond when they see something in these spaces that is inappropriate, right? That is that's something that makes them feel uncomfortable, or is an example of racist speech. So, Tali, have you done this one?
I have done this one. And just a note here, some of the language in here, there's some slang. And this is something where before you use it, just familiarize yourself with the slang. For example, ICE refers to Immigration and Customs Enforcement. It also is slang for diamonds. I will say I've seen educators take this is an example of a digital dilemma, and tweak it for their own practices. I'm just thinking from a coaching perspective. You might even bring in an actual dilemma or issue that came up at a previous game and talk about it. I'm thinking about when I played in high school, I played basketball, and I remember our coach starting off one of our practices saying, hey, at the end of the last game, you guys were really sore losers. Like, let's talk about what happened. Yeah, it wasn't an easy conversation. It wasn't about us missing layups. It was about how we conducted ourselves. And after that, he would periodically bring in examples of when we did something really well, when we didn't do something well. But here, this could be a hypothetical, or it could be based on some situations that students are dealing with and bringing up to you.
I think the point is that you do this in a proactive fashion, that you bring in this conversation, and you pretend, it's much easier to talk about Maya and Luke in this situation where, where Maya sees something that Luke had posted that, was kind of racist. And she's just like, you know what? This makes me feel uncomfortable. What do I do? How do I handle this approach? And by having this conversation with your students about these two fictional kids, you are showing how Maya is very uncomfortable. You're also taking Luke's perspective, because maybe Luke is just ignorant and just was liking, right? When he was, when he was in this space, that I'm not just liking, but, just posting stuff that he had seen before. And so, when we're talking about these situations, is this something that, you can proactively have a conversation with your students about, and so that you don't have to deal with it when the real Maya and Luke are sitting in your club and the tensions are high, and, and things are very difficult. By being proactive and having these conversations up front, you might avoid some of that in the future, or have a process for it.
And go ahead, Jessica.
I love the idea of just opening up a discussion as well, because some kids, yes, there is a topic and there's a general something to speak to that's happening in this meme and in this scenario, but some kids might see Discord. And they connect. Oh, and one time when I was on Discord, this happened. And so kids might be able to take this as an opportunity to also bring up something that they've personally encountered, and have that space to talk about it, have their fellow players and their coach there to hear about it, and to get some of the feedback. And maybe the coach can say, well, maybe next time you can this. So I think it's just a great way to have those conversations and to let students know that they can speak about things in these spaces.
And I love, Jessica, that you brought up how it opens up the space for that kind of mentored conversation. I just wanted to clarify, and as Sue was saying, these are great hypotheticals. I was not suggesting in any way to use students' real names or to use situations that have happened without them bringing it up first or having their permission.
Yeah. We want to make sure we don't put anybody on the spot, uncomfortable, right? We want to make this a safe space for our students and make sure that everybody, feels like they're not being targeted in any way. It's just much easier if you're talking about hypothetical kids, but where there's nobody's embarrassed, right? Nobody's targeted. Nobody is feeling on the spot or uncomfortable. That's why fictional kids are great. So I just wanted to point out that we have a lot of these scenarios, or you can, kind of use your own, but these are a great, bell ringer, or, first 10 minutes. I said, some of these can be done. Any of these lessons can be done, in the first 10 minutes of club. And, we have a protocol for breaking down the scenario. And, we often ask, who are the people involved in the scenario? What dilemma or challenge are they facing? So that you as a coach have a way to facilitate some of these activities without just saying like, all right, discuss, right? You can ask, what do you think each person in this dilemma is feeling? right? Why is it hard for them? Why is it hard for Luke? Why is it hard for Maya? Why is it hard for all the kids who read this, right? Who are in that space? And imagine the possibilities, options for how it could be handled. What could they do going forward? Give me some ideas for how they can move. So these are just some ways that we ask, for facilitation of this, just to make sure that it's a productive conversation and that everybody can, you're building relationships here. That's what you're doing. You're having conversations to be able to have kids open up and build relationships with you.
And the last thing on that, Sue, too, is I love that you're also just bringing habits of thinking as well, so that hopefully when students are dealing with dilemmas, they start walking through these steps kind of on their own.
Yep. And taking the perspectives of others and understanding how that might feel, empathizing. Yeah. This last piece here that I wanted to share as it relates to like maybe a possible activity after school is, your students are, if they're on your esports team, if they're in your club, they are representatives of you, your school, your district, your county, in a lot of ways, like, and so when they are in competition, when they are on your team, when they are part of your club, they need to be aware of their responsibilities, of their own actions. And so they need to consider their own digital footprints. They need to consider what they're posting outside of school because they are representatives. And so how do you have these conversations about who they are on social media? So this is one example of, I don't know if I have this linked here, Tali. Oh yeah, I do. So this is one example of a quick 15-minute activity, and there is a video associated with this. And you did want me to play this, right? Let's see if I can get to this video real quick. And I just want to show a quick example of what this looks like, of what our videos.
I think that social media does make people more fake.
Who's happier? Who's richer? Who appears to be the best?
I would say that it's okay to post a version of themselves that's not 100% real.
Yeah, I post things I want other people to see.
I do think that social media has an effect on how people act in real life.
It carries a lot of weight.
I do not believe in filters, photoshopping, face tuning, none of that.
Yes, I think some people tend to obsess over their social media.
It kind of loses the meaning of what the intention of social media was, to like connect with other people.
Right. So you can hear that there is a whole variety of different voices in here. And I don't know, what are your thoughts on like where this video goes and what it does? I'm sorry.
I think it's helpful again in terms of looking at other teens' experiences and reflecting on, what resonates, what feels like that could be me, or that's something I totally disagree with. And it just opens the door to have that broader conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it makes you reflect as well. What am I doing? How am I putting myself out there? How are my actions maybe making other people feel if I'm only posting the pictures where I look my best or I'm being my best? So I think it's a really good conversation, and it's very timely. And I think our students would actually surprise us with what they have to say about these topics.
They are often very thoughtful, and these can be very meaningful conversations about the ways that they want others to perceive them. How do they project themselves? How do they choose what to post? How do they choose what to share and what to like? And, all of this, right? So that's, I think, many coaches who are interested in esports care about their kids very much, right? I mean, they're not there for the gaming, they're there for their kids. And this is a way for you to further your relationship with your students and better understand them and what they care about. So the last piece I wanted to share was really about parents and caregiver resources. A lot of times parents, I'm prime example. I have a gamer kid. Like, we didn't grow up with this stuff, right? We don't know what is this Overwatch stuff, and like, why are my kids doing this, and what is Discord, and what is Twitch, and like, what is all this stuff, right? We don't know a whole lot of this stuff. So, how do you support parents with resources so that it can be very transparent about what it is that your students are doing, how to help them, how to be supportive. And so we have a few quick resources about esports. This is just one 1 minute video as it relates to, what is esports and what do parents need to know when you think about if you're using, if you're supporting a Minecraft competition, right? What do parents need to know about Minecraft? You could send them home a quick video about, understanding what Minecraft is and how to, how to support your kids. And then there's also these parent ultimate guides that I have a link for here. So parent ultimate guides to Minecraft, Roblox, Fortnite, Discord, there's all kinds of many good parent ultimate guides that give parents a good Q&A about the basics of each of these resources. And here is one that is in development. And it's really about, looking at esports and gaming for parents, understanding how to develop some screen rules. What are these different apps and platforms, including, the ones we mentioned, the Overwatch and Twitch and what else is there? Discord, right? So here is a resource that we will link in the Wakelet that you can, use for parents to give them the basics on esports and help them understand, what is going on and what is it that we use. But we feel it's very important that each of your clubs, all of the folks that are involved need to be very transparent and helpful and make parents feel like they're part of this. Make parents, be included in this conversation so that they can be your allies in supporting their kids when it comes to all this gaming.
I just want to say I'm so grateful for Common Sense Media for seeing this as a need and filling this need, because as a parent, you can go down the rabbit hole trying to find what is Discord, and then when you're researching things, of course, you're going to come across things that make you fearful, and there's going to be the positives, the negatives. And yes, we want to research and we want to know all of the things, but Common Sense has put this together for us in a way that we can easily find out what parents need to know and how we can help our students with the things that are relevant to them and that they're passionate about. So it is something that we can say, how can we support in the most healthy way? And so I'm so grateful that Common Sense has packaged it for parents and made it something right here at our fingertips. So thank you, Common Sense, for seeing the need and supporting esports and supporting our parents and letting us know this valuable information.
Yeah, and I hope that it's also apparent that we don't have any skin in the esports game. We're not game developers. It's not like we're trying to provide the balanced approach here when it comes to all of this esports content. We can share some of these family tech planners that are, in here as well. So these are on this last page, but it's really about, looking at how do you set some ground rules when it comes to, setting that screen time and using age appropriate, developmentally appropriate expectations for your students and trying to have that conversation with your kids so that you all are on the same page when it comes to all this, the gaming and other devices in your space. So oh, you go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I love the family tech planners and just wanted to highlight that many of our resources for parents and caregivers are in English and Spanish. The family tech planners coming this fall will be available in 13 additional languages. So stay tuned for that.
There you go. So more and more coming. So that is the end. That is what we have here. If you have any feedback for any of these resources that we shared with you today, any questions, anything else, any way you want to get a hold of us or tell us what you thought about any of these resources, by all means, we would love to hear your feedback and please, by all means, share it with us. But thank you all so much for joining us for this great recording. And we look forward to talking with you again. All right, take care. I don't know how to stop this recording. Hold on. Stop share. I don't know how to stop. Am I still recording? There we go.
You're still recording.